And I'd certainly welcome you to our informational session. This is our second one, and we hope that you find it informative. And we've really been excited about the number of people that have signed up for this. Just some housekeeping things. We're recording this, so we want you to be sure to know that. And also, if you would get into the chat and drop your name, your affiliation, and your email, that would really help us to communicate further with you. So we'll go ahead and get started. I am Donna Peduto, and I'm director of the West Virginia Public Education Collaborative. And our mission is to bridge K-12 education with higher ed, and also to serve as champion of public education. We're a statewide organization, but we are located physically at the provost office at WVU. And I want to introduce the team that's going to be talking with you today, starting with Canyon Lonnis. We're so excited to have Canyon as our new program director specialist. And he's only been here a short time, but you'd never know it because he's already made a large impact and a positive impact. And a lot of you have been communicating with him already. So we're excited to have him here. He's a former kindergarten and first grade teacher, and currently a doctoral student in education theory and practice at WVU. He brings a lot of enthusiasm and expertise, lots of energy to this project, and you'll be hearing more from him later. I'd also like to introduce Allison Dagen. She's somebody that's been with us since the beginning of Sparking Early Literacy, and she's at WVU as Professor of Literacy Education, but also we're very proud of her new job as Assistant Provost for Graduate Academic Affairs. So you'll hear more from Allison later, but she's been a key part of this, along with Christina Glantz, her graduate student, who's been with us since the beginning. And she's like Canyon. What she brings to this project is amazing. And I want to brag on her because she was the teacher's pet in fourth grade and she was my student. So I'm still very proud of that. Another person that we have here is from the West Virginia Department of Ed. We're joined by Kelly Griffith. And she's the coordinator in early and elementary learning at the Department of Ed. And you're going to learn more about Kelly in a few minutes. She has a fantastic background, particularly to be our liaison with the Department of Ed. She's the perfect person for us because she has a vast background that she can talk more about. But we're happy to have her, and we really have to thank the Department of Education for being a real partner with us all the way on Sparking Early Literacy, even when we wrote the grant to Benedum. So we're really thrilled with that. They're a resource for us. And if you look at the resource guide that we have online, they have been big contributors to that. So we're thrilled to have that. And now I want to introduce someone very special, Melanie Claxton of the Claude Worthington Benedum Foundation. And she's our new program director and is just amazing what she's brought to our table in this past year about helping us revise from Sparking Early Literacy Phase 1 to Phase 2. And she has so much expertise in community and outreach, and all partnerships. She's all things partnership, and we can't thank her enough. If you applied last year and you see our application this year, you see some differences, and she's largely responsible for that in a great way. So I'm thrilled, and I'm going to call on Melanie right now to speak to the group.
Well, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much, Donna, for that glowing introduction. And I'm hoping to live up to those expectations that you just stated to the group. So thank you again for that. And I'm just really glad to be here with everyone today. And so, as Donna mentioned, my name is Melanie Claxton. I'm the Senior Program Officer for Education for the Benedum Foundation. And first and foremost, I just want to thank all of you that are taking the time to participate in today's session with us. It's really my hope that we can leave today with a renewed sense of purpose and really clear direction of the work ahead of us, as we're really striving to improve literacy outcomes for students across the state of West Virginia. For those of you who may be unfamiliar with the Benedum Foundation, we do have a very simple mission. And we strive to encourage what we call human development in West Virginia and Southwestern PA through our giving strategy. And we do this in three ways. And the first is we really seek to kind of cultivate the creativity of people and communities. So really thinking about how can we leverage the innovative nature of individuals much like yourselves and the communities that you serve to really meet the community needs. And then we try to encourage projects and programs that cross both geographical and political boundaries, with an understanding that many of the challenges we face are emblematic of issues not just locally, but challenges that are being faced nationally. So maybe how can we think about that strategy across those barriers, because we have those similarities in terms of our needs and challenges that we're facing. And then finally, we support collaboration. So Donna was mentioning partnerships. I'm big on partnerships. That's my thing, because I do think we have to look at this from a holistic approach. And then it's not one individual, it's not one organization, really it's a community coming together to really think about how do we create these public, private, nonprofit sector practices that will really allow us to inform policy initiatives in some of our key areas and really move the needle. And so that's hopefully something you'll see reiterated today, is this focus on building those strong partnerships. As we know, some of the strongest responses to the RFP process will really focus on leveraging all of your community assets to address the learning needs of students. And so before we kind of dive in today's session around the RFP process itself, I wanted to provide just a little bit of background on this work and our focus. So in December of 2019, the Benedum Foundation Board of Trustees adopted third grade reading as one of the foundation's 75th anniversary initiatives. And so the 75th initiatives really represent a significant financial investment in projects that are core to the foundation's area of interest. So this is us really trying to showcase the importance of the work, but not just the importance of the work, how much we value and are invested in doing this work alongside all of you. And so what we do know is that reading proficiency by third grade is a key milestone in every child's learning journey. And the importance of reading, by third grade is well documented by researchers and practitioners, and it really was the driving force behind the national campaign for grade level reading. And despite a lot of significant public investments in early literacy and a range of pre-existing reading programs, we also know that not all West Virginia students benefit equally. And so really this project was designed to address the gap between different student populations, different regions of the state, as well as grade levels. And we really wanted to engage a core community partner in this work. And so that's why we engaged the West Virginia Public Education Collaborative to develop and issue a request for proposals that was really designed to test innovations that would target specific disparities. So ideally, what I'd like to say is we want to ensure that students across the state have access to the necessary supports and resources to thrive. Like that's what we're really getting at with this work. And it's also important to note that the foundation's investment is intended to test and evaluate new efforts to close the gap among West Virginia's early learners. We're not looking for a silver bullet. We know that a one-size-fits-all approach is not going to work. But ultimately, we're hoping to collect all of this evidence and make a case for support for different policy recommendations that will really support early literacy strategies to raise the learning levels of West Virginia students with the greatest needs. And so we're looking for those kind of like out of the box thinking, those really creative ideas to really uplift our students with the greatest needs, and thereby uplifting a lot of our students or all of our students across the board. And what I'll also mention, it's really important for the foundation that our work be grounded and informed by the needs of the communities we serve. And we can really only accomplish this by engaging those who are leading the work on the ground. And that's you all. And so that's why I'm especially excited for today's session, because you all are here with us, and that indicates your interest to really invest and engage in this work alongside us. So I thank you for that. And just know that the foundation is committed to this work. And as we prepare for this next phase of the initiative, I look forward to learning about all of the creative and innovative projects that I know that you and your teams will develop to ensure that all West Virginia students will be able to read on grade level by third grade. So thank you for your efforts. And like I said, we're glad to be a partner in this work alongside all of you. So thank you, Donna, for that time.
Melanie, that was wonderful. Thank you. It really helps, I think, everybody here, including me, to hear what Benedum's focus is and what they're wanting to get out of this grant, and understanding that these are the people on the ground and they can inform the work, and they're the perfect ones to come up with these new ideas. So great, thank you. I want to turn it over now to Kelly Griffith again from the Department of Ed, and really asking her to talk about what they're doing at the department that aligns with sparking early literacy. Thank you, Kelly.
Okay, well, good afternoon, everyone. And Donna, thank you so much for giving me just a few minutes of your all's time. I got so excited when Donna asked me to do something with her and her team. I always get excited because there's some great things going on here. Melanie, that was so, it was so inspiring to hear the support that you all are giving for the campaign for grade level reading. That excites me so much. Just to give you a little bit about my background, I am new to the department. I've been here, I think, about 7 months, but I'm not new to education. I think this is my 18th or 19th year in education. And a lot of my background is first grade. I taught first grade for about 12 years, and then I was a reading specialist. So early literacy is very, very close to my heart. I'm very passionate about it. My role here at the department is that I am the liaison for the Technical Assistance Center. That is the June Harless there at Marshall University. We partner with them for the campaign for grade level reading. I'm the state lead for the campaign for grade level reading. So what Donna's asked me to do is kind of speak on how the campaign aligns with the Sparking Early Literacy Grant. And there are three crucial areas in the campaign that I think will align perfectly with the Sparking Early Literacy Grant as you are filling out your proposals. And the first one, I guess we could talk about is school readiness. And as Melanie mentioned earlier, not all kids come to school with the same opportunities. So we know that when they come to school and they haven't had the literacy rich environments, or they've not had the conversations, or they've not had the opportunities that other kids have been given. There's some research that shows that kids will come to school and they're already behind. They're already behind like 30 million vocabulary words less than what their middle income peers have heard. So, it's just a huge discrepancy. So we want to focus on that school readiness and how we can support families, not just when they start to school, but from birth to 5. How we can help families, whether that's building relationships with the medical field, getting them into those well visits, or there's a what is it called? Ready, Set, Go on our website. That's a great tool for you all, and it might be even in the packet the resource packet that they have prepared for you all. It's got some great information, family engagement for families, just helps remove some of those barriers for families and for students. Also, the Dolly Parton Imagination Library is one of our big initiatives. It is statewide now. That would also be under the school readiness pillar. So we have the West Virginia pre-K, universal pre-K program. And those are all listed on our website. You all, of course, could reach out to me if you want more information about those, but those are great resources to kind of look into and get to be familiar with that on that school readiness part. Another pillar for the campaign is extended learning. The extended learning is just a focus for kids that can have other opportunities that they may not have at home. So whether it is after school or that summer learning extended program, those are all very important for the kids. I think I've got some data on here. Yes, it says low-income students lose an average of more than 2 months in reading achievement in the summer, while their middle income peers tend to make gains in reading. So if you put the math to that, by the end of 5th grade, these children are nearly 3 years behind their peers. So those extended learning experiences are so important. Some of the ones that we've implemented here are the Summer Soul, the Blue Ribbon, the West Virginia Blue Ribbon Book Club, again, the after school extended learning, And then I think the last pillar that we could talk about that would align with the proposal is the high quality instruction. So you've got the school readiness, the extended learning, and the high quality instruction. And that is, you know, a big part of the technical assistance center that just came about with the June Harless Center. We were able with the campaign to be able to hire 7 specialists that really help build our capacity here at the department. And we're able to really support all 55 counties and whatever needs they may have. We have county lead teams. They build those relationships with those counties. We have a menu of services where they can put in, and we can really help those school systems and counties with whatever. We can tweak it. We have a menu of services, but if they see something on there that they need particularly, we will tailor that to their needs. So if you would like to get on there and get familiar with that as well. And I think that's about all that I have to share. I want to be respectful of your time. I don't want to take up too much of your time. I could always talk about the campaign, but I'm available if anybody has any questions that I could speak more to or help you in any way when it comes to the campaign. I would be happy to share information or share resources with you all.
Kelly, that was great. And it's easy to see why the Department of Ed's early learning programs are top notch and recognized nationally when you hear the overview. And I think it's so important for this grant process for us to be aligned with the excellent work you're doing. First of all, because it is excellent. And second, we don't want to go off the path for, you know, and have people doing different things when we have this excellent guidepost. I do have one question for you.
Sure.
You talked about the literacy coaches, and I know of them, and they were a big part of this last year.
Yes.
As applicants want to, you know, apply, if they would have questions, that would probably be a great resource for them if they could reach out to their literacy coach in their county.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And if you do not know who your specialist is, please contact me so I can get you that information. If you'll look on our website, there is a map, and it's divided up into the category or the regions and the specialists that cover it, and their contact is on there. But if you, for some reason, can't find that, please reach out and I'll get you in touch with the specialist that could help you.
Thank you, Kelly. And
Yes.
we are going to talk about later the one-to-one technical assistance that we'll be offering. So
Right.
I'm going to turn it over to Allison Dagen and just tell you, this is a woman that knows this grant through and through and really worked very hard on the application and resource guide. We appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Donna. I love being a auxiliary member of the WVPEC, and everyone at PEC knows this document quite well. And so it is my privilege to share it with you, or share some of the highlights, point out some of the pieces that you want to pay special attention to. Before I share my screen, though, I wanted to ask if you wouldn't mind, just by like a show of hands with the reaction, either raising your hand or using the reaction tab, how many folks here today, because I see some familiar faces and I see some of our grant recipients here today. How many of you have applied for last year, or let me ask this the other way. How many people are new to Sparking Early Literacy, meaning you did not apply last year, or you may not have attended a session? Just this is something that you're coming to and hearing about for the first time this year. If you could just either do the thumbs up or the, okay.
Mm-hmm. A lot of new.
Okay. All right. So again, now Canyon, you have to make sure you tell me if I'm sharing this time, because remember last time I wasn't sharing and I thought I was.
You are.
I'm good. Okay. All right. Again, so all right. So I see a lot of hands up. You can put your hands down. And so for those of you, we will have time for questions at the end. I'm just going to highlight a couple of the important components of the RFP. So let me start by saying that it's about a 20-page document. And you know, it's interesting, after being in education for about 20 years, sometimes I see RFPs and I pick them up and they're for great projects and we all have our great ideas. And, you know, I think anyone who commutes thinks, if I only had $20,000, if I only had $50,000, if I could try this thing out. Well, then you look at the RFP and you think, I've thought this, do these people really want to fund anybody? Because they're complicated, they're hard, they're not written in a way that is helpful or useful. And then we have this RFP, which is the complete opposite. So it is a document that includes pretty much everything you are going to need when creating a proposal. Now, if the RFP document, which is available on the WVPEC website, if you have not downloaded it, you can actually go download that while we're in this session now if you don't have it, but I'll kind of highlight some pages. If something in the RFP does not make sense, or you have an idea that you want to discuss, as Canyon will talk about after me, we have this wonderful opportunity for one-on-one technical assistance with your project. Okay, so what I want to share with you, I really want to highlight page 12. So I'm going to scroll down there in a moment. And page 12 is the grail, the holy grail chart of here's what's required. Everything in here is important, but this is what I'm going to speak off, page 12. And really the areas that I'm going to focus on, besides a real brief overview, are partnerships, targeted population, and student growth outcomes in this time period. So if you go to page 12, which I am going to ask you to go to page 12, I'm going to go to page 3, because that's the way I'm going to just share with you what you might want to mark on your document. So first thing that what I want to point out is who. You are here, you received an invitation, somebody sent you the link, someone shared this information through a newsletter or an outlet. So this grant is open to public and private schools, childcare programs, after-school programs, nonprofits, college and universities, educationally focused stakeholders, public or private organizations in West Virginia are encouraged to apply. This is a grant that is focusing on West Virginia children, okay? So you are probably in one of those categories, so I wanted to point that out. So the next piece on page 12 is, and Kelly alluded to this, so Kelly, thank you so much. This grant has 3 focuses. 3 of the 4 focuses of the state's campaign for grade level reading are also the focus of this grant. We don't have the focus on attendance, but we do have the focus on school readiness, instruction, or extended learning. So one of the first things that you're going to ask to identify in your project is, which area is your project focusing on? Now, your idea might focus on just one. It might focus on 2 of the 3. It might focus on all 3. What we found last year was, in some ways, it was hard to separate these areas, particularly for those who are working towards the campaign's 3 areas already with your literacy coach, with the Department of Ed. You're doing these things. And so there's so much overlap, but you are going to be asked to identify at least one of those focus areas for your project. One of the other pieces, and I'm going to scroll down to page. This is the description of those focus areas are on page 4, and on page 5. So the who. Okay, I am speaking to the we're on the same page here when we think about the who. The who is birth to age 8 students. Now, what they've been through for the last 2 years, hopefully we all are around long enough to, read a decade or so from now about the impacts of this COVID pandemic shutdown on our education system, and how education had rebounded and transformed and really made something of this terrible experience with COVID. But the priorities here are the students. So who are the students? So the easiest way of looking at it is an age band, birth to age 8. But what we are asking folks to do really specifically this year is to highlight who. So you may have a first grade project, and then in the proposal that you submit, what we're going to ask you is to say, who in the first grade are you focusing on? And some of the targeted populations, and again, this is not limited to these groups, but it's children in poverty, grandparent care, foster care, low SES, special education, students who are struggling with literacy, students who are homeless, experience trauma, Black, Indigenous, children of color. You know, the areas that we are going to ask you to identify in as much specificity as possible who this grant is going to focus on. Now, I hope I could say this statement and be right with this. I do not believe that we had any year one fundings that said birth to 8. So that was a question that came up, you know, do I have to span this whole age? No, you don't. You can be as focused and limited in your age grade. Because remember, at the end of the day, these are demonstration projects. This is funding for a 1-year time period, that what we want to do ultimately is for you to think, and again, take that idea that you've been thinking about on your commute, you know, attach it to one of these areas, think about what we know in what is in the research on what works, what practices are showing improvement. You know, if you Google turnaround schools, you will see so much that you could see how these schools turned around, whether it is the efficient use of data or high dosage tutoring or involvement with the community, you know, a variety of different things that your school may or may not be doing. And I say school, I should say organization or group. Or it might be things that you're doing that you need to add another piece to. So you could certainly build on existing within what you're doing, or you could start anew. But I'm going to get to that in a moment. But what I wanted to highlight here is that the specificity on the who is really important in this proposal. So if you scroll, and as such, I want to point out for those of you who have not seen this terrific snapshot on page 5 of the total number of pre-K 3 students in West Virginia and some of the focus areas that we would be looking at. Again, this is not an exclusive list, and you don't only choose from this, but you know, when you look at this long enough, coupled with some you know, 3rd grade reading scores as a measure, you know that we've got so much work to do, and we're counting on those of you who are in this room who are applying for these grants to try to make a change for these students. So I'm going to scroll down to page 7. If you're still looking at the chart on page 12, this is the next must that you must have, and you must have a partnership. Okay, so for those of you who were in, who may have submitted a proposal last year, or for those of you who were at one of our sessions last year we were asking for partnerships as a recommended practice. What we have learned and changed in this year's process is that partnerships are required. And so how do we define a partnership? And it's highlighted right there, 2 or more entities working together for a shared goal. So what we think about these partnerships is that we're going to have varying levels of engagement. So again, there's some lists here. You could read this on page 7 of what we mean by collaborative partnerships. But these could be partners that are financial partners. These could be partners that share space. These could be thought partners. These could be outside agencies. It would be terrific if your partner was another school or community in your area. You know, we would love to see schools that are struggling partner with a high performing school and see what we could learn from each other. It would be great to have, we have one right now, a county-wide project as one of our projects. And so, you know, again, you can have a partner that assists with implementation. You can have a partner that comes in and does the assessment. You know, so we define partnership very loosely in what they can do, but minimally what we would want your partner to do is that your project and your partner have some ongoing communication. So we know if this is the case, that these are going to have to be people that are as equally vested in the success of the students that you are targeting as you are, right? Because we want as many hands working towards this goal as possible. We want these folks involved in these partners to be involved in some way with the implementation perhaps and the outcomes. Because again, at the end of the day, we know that the success of the projects could be demonstrated in multiple ways, but one of the ways that we're going to ask you to do with your project is to identify some outcomes. And so I am going to say, if you're on page 12, this is still a requirement. If you are in the grant, this is page 8. So What we are requiring of you at minimum is 2 outcomes. And one of those outcomes, the first outcome, is going to be on student achievement. And so that could be measured in a variety of ways, but typically that's going to be in an informal or a formal reading assessment, literacy assessment, writing assessment. This can be what your school or project already uses. This can be something that you create specifically for the project. If you want some terrific examples of some both informal and formal assessments, those that are used in schools right now and those that could be purchased as part of actually your grant budget, could purchase a formal assessment if a formal assessment is warranted in this case. But if you go over to the resource guide, towards the middle, three-fourths of the way in, there's about 4 or 5 pages on a listing of some really great formal and informal reading inventories. So outcome 1 absolutely positively must measure student improvement in a pre and post assessment, period. Outcome 2 could measure other areas of success in the grant. This could be around students motivation, students attitudes, right? This could be a secondary literacy area that's measured anecdotally or observationally. This could be, outcome 2 could be your community, changes in community. If you have a parent project, it could be changes on parents. If you have a home project, this could be literacy environment, etc. So outcome 2 is a requirement. If you have a project that you have a third outcome for, you can list that as well. I think we might have one right now with 4 outcomes. Again, but outcome number 1 must be with students, must be pre and post, must be a measurable outcome. So again, if you are still on, I'm going to scroll down before I say anything about the budget. I think I might be scrolling down to page 9 right now. Kenyon, I know that you're talking about support. So I'm going to scroll down because my notes say that I'm going to page 13 right now, but I'm going to stop for a moment and ask if there are any questions in what I have shared in the RFP so far.
And there may be some in the chat, Allison, too. We encourage that.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So let me just stop for a moment.
Chrissy,
Also, there's a question that says, is there a minimum number of students that need to be served?
You know, we don't have a minimum number of students to be served. And so, you know, some of these projects may be a school project. And what I encourage you, if you had a small number, is I would encourage you to find a collaborative partner or another school that has a small number in your community. So whereas there's not a minimum, you know, I'm going to say this, you know, this is a pretty large budgeted grant. So we don't have a posted minimum, but I think that what you want to do is be as specific about the audience, keeping in mind that it's a large budget. And then I saw a question that said the resource guide. And so Kenyon, would you, so we also have created a about 50-page resource guide that you can use for this project. And I know, and that is also on the WVPEC's website. That resource guide is broken down. You're going to talk about this, right, Kenyon?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
And then Al, the only other question is, will this grant be replacing the grade level for campaign reading grants that we currently receive? So that might be a question for you or for Kelly.
I see Kelly shaking her head no.
no.
No, but this also could be, go ahead, Kelly.
I'm sorry, I was on mute. No, this will not. Like counties will still get their allocations for the campaign as well. This is in addition to.
Thank you.
Okay. You know, actually, before I share page 13, I'm just going to scroll up to page 9 really quickly, because while you're thinking about what your project may be and how you're going to propose it, I want to share with you just the timeline, okay, before. So here we are, March 30th. Can you believe this? Oh my goodness gracious. So we're at information session 2. And Kenyon's going to talk about this, but for then the next, the month of April and the month of May, we're going to have these technical assistance one-on-one consulting meetings. That's terrific. These grant narratives are proposals are due on June 15th. The formal notification of awards are going to be in September, and the funding period starts in September. So, to that last question, and Kelly, maybe you could help me out here. What I'm thinking out loud without thinking it out, so maybe that's not always a good idea, is I'm not sure when the projects, when the grants become available and the funds become available for the campaign work. Would that be at the beginning of the school year as well?
I was not here last year when counties were allotted those. So I don't want to be quoted, for certain here, but I know that I have seen a few emails come across recently, and allocations are getting ready to be dispersed. So I know that they'll have them prior to, it's probably in the summer, but it'll be prior to the school year.
Okay. And while this, okay, thank you, Kelly. So
As early as July, there it is, Maggie, just
as early as,
okay. Yeah.
Terrific. And so, and I think that one of the things, because we have these focus areas that are the same, maybe you might want to look at what you have proposed for that and say, well, we have this plan for our campaign money, but now we'd like to have this demonstration project in an area connected to what we're doing for the campaign. And that is also an interesting way to think about how you would propose these grants. So let me walk through what the submission guidelines would look like, what we're asking for. And again, this is page 13 and 14 of the grant and the RFP. So this is an electronic process. Kenyon's going to walk through how to do this. It is a very simple one-page cover sheet, as simple as can be, what county you are in, what your name is, all of these wonderful things, a very short project abstract. And then we have about, I'm scrolling before I say it, 9, I like this, 9 prompts. And these are all text box prompts. And so what we're going to ask you about is your statement of need, as we had just talked about, and that is specifically which area you're going to focus on. We're asking you to describe your student population. And again, I can't say it enough to be as specific as possible of why this particular group, be it special education, be it students who struggle, why this is the target. We are going to ask, question 3 asks how you'll engage classroom teachers and professionals and families and communities. Again, in this demonstration project, thinking about the other outside of the fray of who you're working with. We do ask you about how this project is going to support your existing efforts, your organization's existing efforts. And as I just described, in the question number 5 asks for those 2 outcomes. Remember, required 2, 1 must be student assessment. You can have 3, you can have 4. We're going to ask you for an implementation plan, and this implementation plan is really going to make you think, and again, this is a proposal, this is a plan, this is a month-by-month breakdown. We get this money in September, here's what we're doing. Here's what we're doing. And think bullets, right? Here's what we're doing in September, here's what we're doing in October, November, December. We're going to ask you about sustainability, and this, I think, is really the key part to these collaborative partnerships. The more collaborative partners you have, the more opportunity you have for sustainability. The more hands you have, the more people who are committed to your project's idea, the more, the better chance you have at these sustainability plans and sustaining the project beyond the funding year. We ask you about the personnel, and the very last question asks a very specific question about your educational or community partnership and what exactly they're going to do. Okay, and again, that is open to yours. We're not looking for a specific type of partnership, but we are looking as a requirement to have a partner. The third part of the proposal, very briefly, is the grant narrative. We provide a nice little table for you if you'd like to use this. Again, what I want to point out is these are categories that we have put in. Maybe you need a director, maybe you need consultants, maybe you are paying participants, be it parents or teachers or paraprofessionals, maybe you need equipment, training, supplies, etc. That does not mean these are the only categories. This is just what we have populated in as an example of what your grant can include. What we would like you to do, whether you use this template or not, but this template is great. I would use it, just go through and change some of the titles if you're not using this. What you're asking for from the grant is very important. These projects are up to $50,000, which, you know, in education could change a lot. And then we've got this column, costs allocated to other sources. So match. So maybe you have a collaborative partner that's a financial partner, and that's great, right? Who brings the match. Match is not required, but it's certainly encouraged. And when we think about match, we think about it in two ways. One, there's a straight out cash version of match, right? That's why we have this category, this line for cash. And then there's in-kind match. And that is when you might be dedicating a small period of your time that your organization says, you know, it's like a buyout, it's an in-kind. It might be space that you're using and someone's allowing, that's an in-kind donation. Basically at the bottom here, you should be asking for up to $50,000, but you might have this might be part of a larger project with a whole lot of in-kind and cash matching. Just want to make one really quick point, and that is that this grant will absolutely not pay for some fringe, okay, or administrative costs. And very lastly, there is a small budget statement for each one of these categories, whether you have a coordinator or materials or curriculum or budgets. You just have to explain what amount you're using for and give a justification statement for each of those areas. Whew. I'm gonna take a drink. Kenyon, I don't know if you want to, I'm gonna turn it over to you because maybe some of the questions might be answered there. And then we could answer questions at the end.
Sure, that sounds great.
Okay.
So if you're feeling a little overwhelmed, that's okay, because we're here to support you. And that's what I would like to talk to you about today. Website in the chat. If you go to the WVPEC's main page, there's also a direct link from there that will take you to the one specifically for sparking early literacy. I'm going to share my screen so you can see what it looks like. And what we've really tried to do is house all of the information you need to successfully complete the application here. So this is your one-stop shop for all things sparking early literacy. I'm here, you can find the link to the application, which I'll show you in a second. And of course, you've already found the one to the March 30 info session. There's also links to the request for proposals that Dr. Dagen's been talking about, as well as the resource guide. And that's where I would like to take you now. So here is the resource guide. And really, this is intended to be just that, a resource for you as you complete your application. You can see here the type of things that are discussed in the resource guide. There's a really brief overview of early literacy in West Virginia, and then it really goes into detail for each of the focus areas. In addition, you know, because of the new normal brought on by the COVID pandemic, there's also a section on remote and virtual learning, as well as a pretty robust list of literacy assessments that you can use to track that first outcome on student growth. And then finally, there is a section on teacher professional learning. You know, we know that although students are our focus here, in order to receive good literacy instruction, they need good teachers. And so that might be something you want to consider as an element of your grant as well. In the appendix, there is some really cool resources. Again, a glossary of early literacy terms, a really cool table on research studies, national studies on early literacy, and then again, just another list of resources. I want to show you really quickly part 2, which starts the early literacy focus areas. For each of the grant focus areas, the resource guide is set up in the exact same way. So you'll see a brief overview of the focus area, and then you'll see selected resources. These are research studies or national organizations, local organizations that serve to share information about early literacy. I would look at these, and many of them are hyperlinked and will take you to their website for more information. In addition to the selected resources, there are also a list of West Virginia initiatives. So as Kelly talked about in the beginning of our presentation, there's already really great work being done in early literacy here in West Virginia. And this list will showcase some of them for you to replicate or build off of. This serves as a great springboard for whatever your potential project might be. Now, just because if you're looking at this list and your initiative's not listed in there, it's not because we didn't choose to include you. It's just that we only had so much space in the resource guide. So thank you so much for the work that you're doing. I want to take you back to the website and just share a couple of resources that are listed in the request for proposals. So Allison already showed you the student data snapshot that sort of gives a statewide look at student data in West Virginia, but we also chose to include some more specific data relating to student achievement. So I think Logan Bielix on this call from the Benedum Foundation, she really did an excellent job of sharing these wonderful maps with us at the end of the research or the RFP, excuse me. And that just show, you know, things like reading proficiency throughout the state and how they relate to changes from school year 19 to 21. There's a ton of great resources here, and they're all very visually appealing. So I invite you to look at these for some really interesting information. And then lastly, in addition to the achievement data, we also have some resources here about the SES data by county in the state of West Virginia, pre-K to 3. So these are just some of the things that are available to you that really will support, you know, as you're advocating for your target population or sharing your ideas that you can springboard off of. Going back to the website, you can see you have the timeline here. And the next thing I would like to talk about is what happens next. So if you have a really great idea, we are available to support you, and we highly recommend that you sign up for a technical assistance session. This is when you will work with one-on-one with one of our great literacy consultants, either from WVU, from Marshall, or from the Department of Education. And they'll be able to help you think through not only the grant focus areas and your target populations, but just some of the logistics that go along with a grant of this size. To sign up for those, scroll down to this blue section here where it says register for a consulting session. It'll take you to our Sign Up Genius page. At this time, we're asking that you just sign up for one session, and then we will, if you need an additional session, we can work with you to make sure that you meet with the same technical assistant. So you just sign up, you'll add your name and contact information as well as your organization, and the site will automatically send you a Zoom link. You can add it to your calendar and just join at that time, and there will be a literacy consultant on the other side of the screen to help you. We've tried to make this process as easy as possible because we know that in the life of education, you're all very busy. So if you have any issues with this site, please don't hesitate to reach out to me, and I will be super happy to help coordinate these sessions with you as well. Heading back to the website.
I'm sorry, can I just say one thing about those signups? I know that we have them set as 45-minute blocks. Maybe you just need 15 minutes, right? So don't feel that you, but I think once we start talking about these great projects, actually 45 might not be enough, but we only have them set at that time just to kind of block the time. So if it's a shorter question, you can ask your question and, you know, pitch your idea, and you don't need to be committed to that whole time, because particularly those of you who are in school, you might not have a 45-minute block in the middle of the day, although we do have some late times after school.
Thanks, Allison. So lastly, at the very bottom of the page, you'll see the link to the RFP and the resource guide again. You'll also see a partnership acknowledgement form, which is a requirement of the grants. It is hyperlinked there, and it's a fillable PDF. You just put in your information and upload this along with your application. This is, again, just to make sure that everybody is on the same page with what's being submitted to us here at PEC. And then lastly, there's a sample budget template. It's the same one listed in the RFP. Here it's available for download if you choose to use it as a template. The last thing I want to mention is on the right side of your screen, you'll see the funded projects from the last cycle of Sparking Early Literacy. There's some really, really interesting and innovative work being done here. So if you're looking for inspiration, this might be a good place to start. And I encourage you to do so because, like I said, there's great work being done. All right.
Questions, maybe?
Yep. I want to show you one more thing,
Yes.
and then we'll move on to questions. If you go to the very top, the big yellow button that says apply today, if you click it, it will bring up the online application. If you see this screen, you're definitely in the right place. We encourage you to complete the questions ahead of time as listed in the RFP, and then copy and paste them into the form. It should give you plenty of time to work inside of the form itself, but just so you don't lose any of that hard work that you've done, we would like for you to just keep a backup copy as well. So this is the page. Unfortunately, it's set to answer every question, so I can't walk through the document with you, but it's really straightforward. As you fill in your information, just hit the arrow, and at the end, you'll see a confirmation screen, and that lets you know that your proposal has been submitted, and we'll receive it here, and be sure to reach out to you with any questions.
And Canyon, can I just throw this out because we can't kind of zip through those buttons? There will be 2 attachments, correct?
Correct. Yes, you will upload not only the partnership acknowledgement form that's on the website, but also your budget plan as well. Again, you don't have to use our budget template. That's simply a resource for you to get started. I will drop my email in the chat. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. I am the point of contact here at PEC for this project, and I feel very strongly about it, and I'm excited to see the great work that is submitted.
There is one question.
Yeah, it looks like there is a question in the chat. It says, so no indirect costs can be charged.
Right. That's correct, Shelby. Thank you.
So any questions? Kathy Wharton, I hope you're taking all this down for Allison, and you two can put in a joint project. Listen, how fortunate, how lucky can you be in one lifetime to work with a woman who's earning her reading specialist certification, then and national board, and then a couple of years later be treated to her beautiful daughter as a candidate, right? So this is where I see Kathy's name here. But questions?
Allison, thank you for that compliment.
I do see Melissa Wortman and Carrie Law on the call today, who are some of our first year recipients, grant recipients, who are doing a great project with around early literacy and working with pediatricians, helping pediatricians understand the importance of oral language and literacy. And so in this project, they're getting books, but it's books plus, right? There's multiple aspects to the project where not only the kids awarded with these books, but the pediatricians are learning the importance of oral literacy. The families are learning the importance of home environment. And when we think about something disruptive, when we think about these demonstration projects, think about your wildest dreams and what you think hasn't been done but should be done. And this is what Melissa and Carrie are implementing in Mon and Wood counties right now in their project. We've got another project working with communities where the local employers are allowing their employees to have a lunch hour, and during that lunch hour, representatives from the school are going in to train the parents during the lunch hour on early literacy principles and practices. You know, I think that, again, I think about, you know, what could help a school, what could help these kids in this grade, and sometimes it could be something like we have a project this year where there was some looping going on because of the pandemic and these children not getting the full pre-K experience, and the classes have moved together, and the pre-K and the first grade teach and the pre-K and the K teacher are pretty much switching roles. That's disruptive. That's different. That's another one of our projects. Can you imagine how annoying I am at a dinner party? Any other questions? No, because that's why I'm not invited. But
Here's one, right? Here's a question, Canyon. You want to shout it out?
Yeah, the question says, would it be possible to have the contact information for those in the meeting today so that we could possibly reach out to them for collaboration? I mean, that is definitely something that I'm able to do if everyone on the call is comfortable with me sharing that information. My plan is to, in the next week, follow up with all of you, not only with the session recording, but also just a couple of links and tips for the things we talked about today. So if that's all right with everyone, I can just put everyone in the address bar, and then you'll have contact information that way.
So if somebody objects to that, they could type it right in there
If
now.
someone, you know, isn't interested in that, you can either message me privately, email me, or drop it in the chat, and I'll be sure to remove you from that list. But thank you.
Melissa Workman, are you looking for kindergarten and first grade teachers in public schools in West Virginia?
I mean, that would be great. We're really looking, we're working with Dr. Joy Saab a little bit, and we're looking at Title I teachers, as I talked to you about the other day. So especially in McDowell and Boone County. I don't know if anyone is on from that area, but yeah, I mean, we're totally open. So
that's you know, this is another great way to make some connections. So Melissa is at the West Virginia University lab school, the nursery school, and working with the professor and looking for some schools to collaborate with in a great project. So yes, I think that's a great idea. It's a good place to come and network to find school-based partners who would be interested in being a regional site.
Comes a question. Oh, there we go. No. Got some good networking going on in the chat room. That's good. And I think most people did put their contact information in the chat room, but I know we're missing a couple because we know how many people are present and we don't have that many. So if you forgot to do that or haven't had a chance, let's go ahead and do that. That would be great.
And again, can I just give another pitch for signing up for the one-on-one? And I think what's really interesting is this, you know, when we think about demonstration projects for a 1-year period, it is not something, it could be something that's never been done. It could be something so simple that you might think, well, that's too simple, but these are the effective projects too, right? There could be multiple layers to this. And so when I think that you want to sign up for this technical assistance, because you'll get one of, again, somebody from the Department of Ed, from Marshall, one of the lit consultants that are working with the projects now to kind of just like tease out the idea with you. So you might say like, well, you know, our county has this great network of reading specialists. How can we use them? Or how can we use them to help only the second grade? Because second grade is the grade that really hasn't had the complete school year. And we know that these kids are going to be our third graders next year. And this is not a test prep statement, right? But we know that some of these second graders may have been missed. And how do we do some really intensive high dosage tutoring with kids in that grade? What does that look like? And so that could be like the premise of the basic idea, and just, you know, shoot out the best idea and have somebody to bounce the ideas off who isn't in, or might give you the next questions to consider. That's the importance of this one-on-one. If I was signing up for one-on-one though, I would probably have a semi-solid idea versus coming in to say, what can I do? Because that would be helpful. And again, this is another place where, just like Melissa put in the chat, maybe you want to sign up for the one-on-one with your idea, but you're also looking for a partner. You know, there's a steering committee that is on this grant who represents a lot of the agencies that you probably all work with, and maybe, you know, we can help you in that way too.
Very good points.
There was another question in the chat as far as a list of successful or funded projects from last year. Again, on our website, all the way at the bottom, there's a list of those projects. If you're interested in connecting with them or collaborating with them, please email me with what projects you're interested in, and I'd be happy to connect you.
We could put that direct link in the chat too,
Sure.
if you don't mind, can you? Just so they can get to it quickly.
And what you might not see in those descriptions on the funded projects from last year is there might not be a collaborative partner. There might not have been a collaborative partner in the proposal. Interestingly and wonderfully, each one of these funded projects does have a collaborative partner, even though it was only recommended last year. So again, when we think about required collaborative partners, this could be anybody in the state, right? So your partner doesn't only have to be in your county. And quite frankly, your project could take place in your county and 2 other counties. Your project could take place in the county next to yours because your county has too many initiatives. I don't know. That was a very bad example. I got caught there. I didn't know what to say. But what I'm saying is that you can go anywhere in the state with these projects, but it has to stay within the state. It has to be birth to 8 or some variation of birth to 8. You must have a collaborative partner. You must have a student assessment outcome.
That's a great summary of what you must have and what you could have and should have. That's great. And just wanted to say, and Allison already said this about the partnership, it is required, but it's not like all partnerships would have to be equal in the funding, splitting the funding. You might not need to give that partner anything because, as Allison explained, they're a thought partner or, you know, business partner in education. So don't feel like, you know, you have to necessarily share the love.
Yeah.
That way. That David
Moore.
I love it.
And again, I think about thinking about things that have not been done yet. And, you know, especially, or maybe you want to lean into some of the lessons learned from the pandemic and the online areas, or something that hasn't been done. You know, we have these terrific summer school projects. We have amazing after school projects. You know, do we have a Saturday project? Do we need Saturday school for intervention or more literacy? I don't know. This is, but you know your community, and you know your families and what can be done. You know, do we need something before school? Do we need to extend the day? Do we need to again have a principal potentially shift the schedule so there's, you know, a power hour in the school? You know, all of these things that are ideas that are you're going to try out, and then at the end of the year, you know, you'll be working with a literacy consultant all year, and that's a beautiful part of the project too, because we are here to support you too. So ultimately, the literacy consultants, WVPEC, is a partner in this project too, and is as equally vested in the success of your project as you are.
I've got a question on the pre-test and post-test. Is that something that's self-generated, or is that a standardized assessment of some sort that's given periodically throughout the year? So when you see somebody that's falling behind, you can do some interventions when they need it.
So what we are that's a really great question. So what we are requiring is a pre and a post, and this could be an informal assessment or a formal assessment. This could be something that the schools, that the school or the program is already using. And of course, you certainly can use some progress monitoring type of testing to guide your project, most certainly. But what the grant is requiring is the pre and the post. And I think probably what came up a lot last year was PALS, right? Because of the availability for everyone to have a free assessment if they weren't using it. We had some projects, and again, I should say for full transparency, I am Melissa and Carrie's literacy consultant. And so they chose the Peabody Picture Vocabulary, an oral language assessment, a formal oral language assessment that the grant funds, I believe, were at least proposed to purchase. So you can use the grant funds to get some type of formal assessment. I hope that answered the question.
I also want to mention that there is a really robust list of assessments in the resource guide. And you can use one of those, you can use multiple of those, but you're also not required to use those. Those are just helpful suggestions if you're looking for something to track that student data throughout the year.
Yeah, maybe this is a question for Kelly Griffith. Does the department have assessments that are used to assess literacy progress throughout the school year, or?
Well,
Not?
no, not really. We don't support one over the other. We do provide PALs for free for up to, I think, 2nd grade, and then 3rd through 8th grade get a discount if they're using PALs. But that is the only one that that we have, that we use here at the department.
Okay, thanks.
And that's something,
Go
I'm
ahead.
sorry. And that's something that the one-on-one, you could bring up, David, at the one-on-one, should you want to sign up for that, and talk specifically and get some recommendations there too.
Yeah, I'm not signing up for anything. I work for the legislature. I'm part of the WPEC. We had a proposal this year to have early childhood teaching assistants in grades 1 through 2 to provide some extra resources in those grade levels so the teacher would have some additional help in working with students when they started to fall behind.
I had my fingers crossed for that one.
Me too.
What?
So I had my fingers crossed for that one. Well, perhaps we have somebody on the call here who works in a school who would like to try to implement that as a grant project proposal to take a grade level and use the funds to put in an aide, a paraprofessional, or 2 across grade level. So these are the kind of things, that the grant could do. And although the direct impact is on students, when we think about what chronically low performing schools need, right? Again, the classroom aid is an example. And we know that schools that turn around use their data well and wisely. And so if you're in a school that, maybe the county next door does it really well, and the school that you're at potentially does not. And right, so the planting the seed of your idea could be around how to use student data to target specific student supports. We don't do it well. We think this will help improve our grades. Where do we go to start this project? And so, it could be stuff like that. We know that common planning time or collaboration time is effective. Teacher professional development, working with the principal support. And so any combination of these areas could be areas. And again, for those of you who commute to work, that you think of these things as you're driving home. If I could change it, how would I do it?
Yeah.
Well, I'm in agreement with most of those things you just said. So thanks.
Mhm.
I also, I don't want to speak for Melanie because she had to drop off, but I do know that one of the things that the Benedum Foundation is really looking at is how we can scale up these initiatives and implement them in other parts of the state, or what we can recommend to the West Virginia legislature that will improve early literacy in the Mountain State. So as you're thinking about your grant projects, that might be something that you consider as well, as far as what type of innovative practices you're looking to implement.
Great. We have another question in there.
Sure. Are kindergarten teachers still using Dibbles? I'll redirect that question to Kelly. Anecdotally, I know that it depends on the district, but maybe the department has a different approach.
Yes, so we don't have that information documented here at the department. Since that is like a supplemental assessment, like we don't track that, but I'm sure there are some counties that are still using Dibbles or that are currently using Dibbles, but I don't have a list of those documented. Those, when it comes to vendors like that, we let the counties decide what they want to use. Yeah.
Mhm.
I think reaching out for partners, either through us to help facilitate that, or for you, I mean, this could be, and then again, another county, this could be partners in higher ed. I mean, we've got amazing higher ed institutions, Concord and Shepherd and Marshall, West Lib, WVU. I mean, we've got these great departments of ed in all these institutions that perhaps there's a faculty member, an organization, that's a great collaborative partner. I don't know. I'm ready to go write a grant. I don't know about you all, but I want to start mine. Oh, I can't start mine, but I want to. There's so much promise. And I think, much to the thank you to WVPEC and the Benedum Foundation, this is the second year of these awards. And, last year was, I think, Donna, you may have said this at the beginning, and I'm sorry if I missed it. There were 8 projects funded at close to $400,000. And there's these projects are up to $50,000 grants. We have the potential to have just as much. And this is really not the norm in education. I know that there's some CARES money is out there. This might be something you want to reach out to your Title I director on to see if there's some match in the CARES funds and what they may or may have left or potentially earmarked to spend for next year. That's a great match. That's a great place to find additional funds. These do not have to be gigantic projects, and sometimes the best ideas are also the simplest. It's
a good point. And speaking about funding, additional funding, last year we had the Steely Foundation that matched the winners. Out of the 8 winners, anybody that was from that Eastern Panhandle where Steely operates was given some funding in addition to the 50,000. And this year we have EQT, and their oil and gas, and they have their territory too. So, and you never know, I'm just mentioning too, you never know what local foundation or community group might want to do that too. So there's always that potential, which makes it exciting. I know we're at the end here. There's one more question from Melissa. Oh, she's sharing with us. Match funding is often through community organizations such as the Lions Club, 4-H Extension. Very good point, Melissa. So there's always parlaying on that. Well, I know we're past our time a little bit, but I just want to thank everybody for your time and your interest in sparking early literacy. And we did have a question from somebody that applied last year. Is it required to fill out an intent to apply? Because we required that last year. It's not required this year, but we probably will give it a couple weeks and shoot out something and ask you yes or no, are you planning on applying? And maybe an idea. So I just wanted
and
to.
Donna, I'm sorry, there's one more question that came in that said, are federal grants permissible for match? And that is permissible for match.
Yeah. Good point. Good question.
And match does not need to be one-to-one match too. And
Right.
It is not required, just recommended.
Very good. All right. Thank you all so much. We look forward to seeing you in the technical assistance sessions. And, just I think that Allison and Canyon did a great job of emphasizing how committed we are to technical assistance. So call on us. And if you don't want to be in the session. You might want to email us, whatever's best for you. But we look forward to your application and helping you to complete it if needed. Good night, everyone. Thank you.